it was iconic, is iconic, and because of the wonder of film being forever, he always will be. He is a true superstar.
Oh, yeah. And there's not many of them left like he was. You know, my favorite movie of all of them, when he was playing assistant to Tesla in a movie.
Oh, yes. I think that called the Prestige.
Yeah.
And he was playing an ingénieur, the man that would make the magic happen. And he did a film that involved David Bowie as a wonderful cameo performance as Tesla. It was a remarkable performance, and I think, in my view, because the whole subject interested me, the look of the film interested me, I felt that was one of the films that it's up there for me for Michael's performances. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, you know what? To me, that whole film just drew me into it. I mean, I've seen the reruns on our local TV numerous times, but I tell you, it's the type of movie, it just drags you into it, and it goes by so fast. But, I mean, it was just ahead of its time.
The pace is delightful. The story, and we're not going to give any spoilers out there. If the folks haven't seen The Prestige, go and watch it. Go and look it out. Next time it's coming up there, have a look at that. But if you have not seen The Jack the Ripper, which starred Michael Caine as Inspector Abberline, Abberline was a real character. He was the Inspector Abberline. He was the Scotland Yard officer, and he was on the ground in Whitechapel investigating the murders of Jack the Ripper.
Oh, wow. Now, how many... I was just going to ask you a question, Neil. How many murders happened in Britain with Jack the Ripper before he transported himself into, supposedly, United States?
Well, this is an interesting point. That my old friend, the late departed Martin Fido, one of the world's foremost authorities on Jack the Ripper, he coined the phrase the canonical 5. So there are 5 killings that we can pretty well subscribe to the killer that became known as Jack the Ripper. But with more modern study looking at criminal profiling, there is a very good chance that there was a 6th murder. It was one that took place before the canonical 5. It was the murder of Martha Tabram in George Yard Buildings. It's in Whitechapel. It's in the heart of what we call Ripper country and the Ripper territory. And she was stabbed multiple times. And those who have studied the sort of psychology of Jack the Ripper, that killer, believe that it was probably his first killing. The rage that he showed there. He knew that he'd crossed the bar, he'd killed, but it didn't satisfy him in the way that, say, the later murders, when he opened the bodies up, he was into the destruction of his victims, the women that he was killing. That's what he was doing.
Okay, when you said open up, I didn't even know that. Can you describe what his murders, victims, what he actually did to them?
Well, in the progression of murders, in each instance, the killing became worse and worse. The first victim of the canonical 5, Polly Nichols on Bucks Row. This is all in the autumn of 1888. There was stabbing to a degree of mutilation. But when you get to the next murder, the killing of Annie Chapman on Hanbury Street, that was known as the Hanbury Street Horror, or I should say in the London accent, the Hanbury Street Horror. And she was killed in a backyard. He had more time to go about it, and her body was opened up. The body cavity is opened up, her intestines are removed, placed over one shoulder, and there are mutilations carried out to her body. Then after that, the next killing, it's thought that he was actually disturbed. Long Liz Stride. She was in a little alleyway off Burner Street near an industrial workingmen's club, and she was found with her throat cut. Louis Diemschutz was coming back after a day out with his trading cart, going up this little alleyway. It was pitch black, quite windy, cold, and the little pony pulling the cart shied, and he couldn't get the pony to move, so he struck a match and he saw a woman on the floor. He went to attend to her, and when he cradled her, he felt that there was still warm blood from her neck. He went inside the club to raise the alarm, but it's thought that Jack the Ripper may well have been hiding in the shadows and then fled. And this is what they call the night of the double event. There are some that argue that this murder was separate to the Jack the Ripper crimes committed by somebody else. But it's part of the canonical five. I'm happy to go with it as a Ripper murder. And it's said that Jack went across the city. He crossed into the City of London boundary, and that's where he carried out his murder on Kathy Eddowes. And that was a horrible mutilation where, again, he's opened up her body. He's taken away her uterus. He has cut part of her ear off, her nose off. He's put nicks in her eyelids with the blade of his knife. It was a horrible killing, and he must have worked very, very rapidly because of the way there was a night watchman nearby, there's a policeman nearby. And then, just as they kind of thought, well, it was more or less a month gone by since that killing, and then the worst of all of the victims was discovered. It was beyond anything anybody had seen in the East End, or indeed London, in a murder case. And this was Mary Jane Kelly, and she was killed in Miller's Court, and it was the only Ripper victim to be killed in her own room. And the mutilations that were carried out on that poor woman, she was the youngest of all of the victims. She was said to be pretty, and it was the complete destruction of a woman. There were parts of her body removed and placed on a table nearby. Her heart was never found. It's thought it might have been taken away or boiled in the kettle in this tiny, tiny little room that was more or less a bed, a table, and a fireplace with a small cooking range in it. Her face was destroyed. It's absolutely one of the worst murder scenes that anybody's ever seen anywhere. And this is why there is a photograph of this. Crime scene photography was very, very unusual up until 1888, but they took a photograph of this. Anybody that saw it, they were haunted by it. The man who went on to catch Crippen, by that time he was Inspector Dew. He was PC Dew in 1888. He went in and he was haunted by what he saw there. So that is your canonical five, each one progressively a more horrible death.
Well, Neil, what years did it start and what years did it end?
This is the autumn of 1888. So this is between late August and November 1888. So this is, it's just months. It's not years upon years. In the years after 1888, there were other murders that, because there was a cut to the throat, they said, oh, Jack the Ripper's at it again. But most of us who have studied the crime seriously believe that is less likely to be a crime of Jack the Ripper. Knife crime was very unusual in London. If you actually look at the cases brought before the magistrates, and this is something I did in a book quite a few moons ago now called Jack the Ripper's London, where I thought, there must have been tens of knife crimes, if not hundreds of knife crimes every year, knives everywhere. There wasn't. Not the crimes that got to court. There may have been knives used in a threat on the street, but a crime that actually got them into court, very, very rare. And if we think of the type of murder that was prevalent at that time, the most prevalent murder was a domestic murder, where a husband it was called the demon drink, alcohol-fueled rage and attacks on the wife. He comes home, he's very drunk, she will scold him for being drunk, disorderly, and he will then lash out with a poker, a knife, a rolling pin, a broken bottle, and potentially deliver a fatal wound to his wife or partner in a domestic setting.
Interesting. Now, hey, Neil. So it's unusual. Neil, we need to take a break for 2 minutes. So, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'm just going to mute you for 2 minutes. We'll be back with Neil Storey talking about, Jack the Ripper and more on Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark.
You and I were living in the strangest of times on my hill, watching while the cities rise from the collapse that we left when the sun beat it down into the valley. Of times, you and me, watching while the cities rise and fall like rain. Seems like I knew you before, but when did I knew you then? Funny how the colors bend when lifetimes start to blend, and we've been spinning mysteries Mandela. Living in the strangest of times, you and me, watching while the cities rise and fall like rain, fall like rain, fall like rain, fall like rain.
Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark wants to give a big shout out to all the truckers that listen to our show.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
Coming to you from some far point station, like a cosmic tumbleweed, both north and south of the Pleiades. Here's your host, Gary Anderson.
And that is me. I'm waiting for that storm to go by my microphone. No, it's actually bumper. But what can I say? Our guest tonight is Neil R.